more advanced than any software ever created. But if this is true, how did the information in DNA arise? Is this striking appearance of design the product of actual design, or of a natural process that can mimic the powers of a designing intelligence? As it turns out, this question is related to a long-standing mystery in biology, the question of the origin of the first life. Indeed, since Watson and Crick's discovery, scientists have increasingly come to understand the centrality of information to even the simplest living systems. DNA stores the assembly instructions for building the many crucial proteins and protein machines that service and maintain even the most primitive one-celled organisms. It follows that building a living cell in the first place requires assembly instructions stored in DNA or some equivalent molecule. As origin of life researcher Bernd Olaf Coopers explains, the problem of the origin of life is clearly basically equivalent to the problem of the origin of biological information. Much has been discovered in molecular and cell biology since Watson and Crick's revolutionary discovery more than 50 years ago. But these discoveries have deepened rather than mitigated the enigma of DNA. Indeed, the problem of the origin of life, and the origin of the information needed to produce it, remains so vexing that Harvard University recently announced a $100 million research program to address it. When Watson and Crick discovered the structure and information-bearing properties of DNA, they did indeed solve one mystery, namely the secret of how the cell stores and transmits hereditary information. But they uncovered another mystery that remains with us to this day. This is the DNA enigma, the mystery of the origin of the information needed to build the first living organism. In one respect, of course, the growing awareness of the reality of information within living things makes life seem more comprehensible. We live in a technological culture familiar with the utility of information. We buy information, we sell it, and we send it down wires. We devise machines to store and retrieve it. We pay programmers and writers to create it. And we enact laws to protect the intellectual property of those who do. Our actions show that we not only value information, but that we regard it as a real entity, on par with matter and energy. That living systems also contain information and depend on it for their existence makes it possible for us to understand the function of biological organisms by reference to our own familiar technology. Biologists have also come to understand the utility of information, in particular for the operation of living systems. After the early 1960s, advances in the field of molecular biology made clear that the digital information in DNA was only part of a complex information processing system, an advanced form of nanotechnology that mirrors and exceeds our own in its complexity, storage density, and logic of design. Over the last 50 years, biology has advanced as scientists have come to understand more about how information in the cell is stored, transferred, edited, and used to construct sophisticated machines and circuits made of proteins. The importance of information to the study of life is perhaps nowhere more obvious than in the emerging fields of genomics and bioinformatics. Over the last decade, scientists involved in these disciplines have begun to map, character by character, the complete sequence of the genetic instructions stored on the human genome, and those of many other species. With the completion of the Human Genome Project in 2000, the emerging field of bioinformatics entered a new era of public interest. News organizations around the world carried President Clinton's announcement of the project's completion on the White House lawn, as Francis Collins, scientific director of the project, described the genome as a book, a repository of instructions, and the book of life. The Human Genome Project, perhaps more than any discovery since the elucidation of the structure of DNA in 1953, has heightened public awareness of the importance of information to living things. If Watson and Crick's discovery showed that DNA stores a genetic text, Francis Collins and his team took a huge step toward deciphering its message. Biology has irrevocably entered an information age. In another way, however, the reality of information within living things makes life seem more mysterious. For one thing, it is difficult to understand exactly what information is. When a personal assistant in New York types a dictation and then prints and sends the result via fax to Los Angeles, something will arrive in LA.